All right, so let's finish this up. I'll go back to the other room in the future. I'm going to have to be recording on the weekends, I think. Nursing department's using it. But looking at my screen, this looks visible. I am saying things. You can hear me say it. This is the nutrition chapter, if you're forgetting. Second part of the lecture. So, losing weight. Losing weight is important. Very important, I guess. Now, there's healthy ways to do it, aside from crash diets. So a healthy way. Carefully measure what you eat for calories each day. Just don't do anything special. Just carefully measure what you're eating for calories each day, just to figure out what you're eating and not gain any weight. Okay, so whatever you eat on a time when you're not gaining weight, but you're happy. Okay, not really gaining much weight, but you're happy. And then go down by 100 calories a day. Now, if you recall, I said the hypothalamus in your brain measures the long-chain fatty acids, and that's when it tells you you're hungry. Okay, so if you do this, if you ever lose weight correctly, you're going to be hungry all day long. Okay, this is part of it. Okay, because your body is like, well, I'm used to eating more than this. So go down by 100 calories each day from that number. Now, you really shouldn't go down. Let's see, what number would be good? Don't go down below like 1,200 and things like that. Obviously, these are horribly low numbers. I think a lot of people could do more than that. But go down by, could do more calories all day long than 1,200, obviously. Go down by 100 calories, and the result in 35 days, you lose a pound. And over 12 months, you'll lose 12 pounds. And I know that seems extremely long, but it's probably the healthiest way to do it. Just monitor what you're doing, just cut back a bit from what you're doing. I would say that people might want a quicker result than that. Even if you do that, though, you're going to clearly be hungry all day. So you say, how can I get rid of fat through exercise? Yes, you obviously can, and I'll give you a number. 1 lb of fat is 3,500 calories of energy if you burn it. If you burn 1 pound of fat, you would get 3,500 calories of energy. Now, a fast game of tennis burns 10 calories per minute. That seems like a decent amount. So let's say you want to burn 3,500 calories. So you want to get rid of 1 pound of fat with tennis. 3,500 calories. And you burn off 10 calories per 1 minute in the fast game of tennis. And there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So let's see how long that takes with this calculator. Probably a long time. 3,500, nothing else on top, divided by brackets, 10 times 60 close brackets equals. If you play a fast game of tennis for 5.8 hours, you will burn a pound of fat. But I don't think people play a fast game of tennis for 5.8 hours, so it's a process. And you have to figure your body out. I mean, some people, it's genetics. I hate to say it, it's race and genetics. There was different types of muscles we're going to talk about in a minute. There's fast twitch and slow twitch muscles. And they were studying fast twitch and slow twitch muscles. And there's a way that we can radio label water to figure out how much energy people are burning. And they did these different types of people, different races of people. And they wanted to see if the people who fidget constantly actually are burning more calories than the people who don't. And if you're somebody who fidgets constantly and you marry somebody who doesn't fidget constantly, they often grab your hand and they get mad at you. Why are you bouncing your leg? What's wrong with you? Well, it turns out that person is actually burning calories all day long, fidgeting or moving their hands or doing something. But they also found out, sadly, like they did the American Indians, if a race of people had been starved or had been under a very, very limited amount of nutrition for tens of thousands of years in the desert, any fat they got, they kept. It was so important. So for some people, it's not really fair. For some people, you might come from a race that you could eat a certain meal that a person your age from another race that wasn't starved for 10,000 years, they won't keep it, where you'll keep it jealously because your body will say, I might be starving again because I know I live in the desert. We can't seem to teach our bodies that. And it's one thing weird about America. In a lot of different countries, like before people started having immigrants come into the European countries, if there was a typical German look, and that would be on the beer bottles, and that's what people thought was attractive, and a typical Italian look, and a typical, well, Italy is a little different because of Rome, but a typical this look and a typical that look. America had so many races of people. If you look back in time, like if you look at movies from the 1950s, the women have a different weight on them than they did in the 1970s and 80s when they got extremely thin. And it's sad because we could pick a race of people and say that'll be what beauty is, and whoever picks it on TV, it's sad. So I think it's a kind of a shocking thing that each person has to realize whatever you naturally are, you have to master you. You have to get a PhD in your body. You got to figure out how your muscles work. You got to figure out what you take. You got to watch your numbers, and whatever you do is not going to work for the other person. You have to just become an expert in you, get all the right nutrition, exercise enough, and of course, exercise to me is cleaning your house more often than not. If you're somebody who wants to use some energy, clean your house. It's always a great idea. All right, so some more stuff. Crash diets. You still want to lose weight. You don't want to play 5.8 hours of tennis, and you don't want to be starving all the time. If you're on a diet and you're doing it right, you'll find yourself policing yourself to the point where you'll just pull your hand back when you see yourself grabbing snacks. I know it's hard, okay? But you're like, no, 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 constantly. Well, how can a person do that in another way? Not a good idea, but speed. If you take a lot of caffeine, as we've talked about before, what does speed do? Triggers fight or flight response. Well, the pen's better, huh? So, as I've said before, let's say you were starving. Oh my God, you're starving. Let's say you have a soul and you care about other people. And they're like, here's the best sandwich you've ever wanted your entire life. And you're about to eat the best sandwich and somebody starts murdering a family member. If you're a good, decent person, you'll be like, you know, I just don't want to eat this sandwich now. I should probably try to save my family member. That's the fight or flight, or get my family member out of there. So what you can do is, you shouldn't, but a lot of time the weight loss things have like some herbal medicine inside there, some herbal remedy, and a heck of a lot of caffeine. They're getting you so hyped up, you think you're constantly at war and you don't want to have this kind of an issue. A lot of your energy drinks, you're buying energy drinks at so much money, and they might have 100 milligrams of caffeine or 200 milligrams of caffeine, and all the other stuff is just fluff. Or you drink a ton of coffee and it's so expensive. You could buy a bottle of caffeine pills extremely cheaply and just take a caffeine pill and get the same effect as one of those expensive $3 drinks. Maybe they're fun to drink, but you could drink some Kool-Aid with the caffeine pill. But you should be careful how much caffeine you take, for God's sakes. Okay? You probably say, wow, what does this guy take? Triggers for fight or flight response. So the whole thing about the crash diet pills, they're often just speed, if you're wondering. We also talked about the low carb diet, and that's because carbohydrates hold H2O molecules. Each glucose might be able to hold 10 H2O molecules, and if you lower the amount of starch, you'll lose water weight, and I think there's so many people who do it to be able to get into a wedding dress or something like that. But long term, if you were to really try to only lose weight by long term by being low on carbs, your body would crave carbs like you wouldn't believe, and you would start to cannibalize your own skeletal muscle. So that's not a great idea either. Let's see. Above all, just get good nutrition and eat so you are always kind of hungry. And everybody has a different set point too. So you're going to have to realize that if you're not losing some weight, you got to go 100 calories down again. But it's over a process of time. And what happens is every Christmas season, every holiday season, you gain 2 pounds. Well, over 20 years, you're 40 pounds heavier. All right, you didn't gain 40 pounds in 1 year. It takes a lot of work and it takes discipline. And hopefully you're very disciplined people. Move a lot, as I said. You should clean your house a lot more, scrub things. Your hand moving is always really good. Let's see. Pumping blood. Here's a sad fact. You have these little capillaries that feed cells. Cells all need blood. They need to be fed. And if you have some excess fat, it takes 200 miles of capillaries, or really thin blood vein type things, or arteries, to feed 1 pound of fat. And what are fat cells? Fat cells are human cells. And human cells want to be fed. They don't want to die. This whole process of losing weight is kind of rough on it because those cells are like, keep feeding me. It takes 200 miles of capillaries. That's why you'll be tired going upstairs with extra weight, because you're pumping blood in so many different places. It's just amazing how much blood you have to pump to keep those cells from going necrotic and getting sick. Let's see. Here's something for you. Just some nice facts. A myth. If you stop exercising, muscle turns to fat. No, you just did not change your calories you take in. So you take enough calories to exercise and be some sort of a weightlifter. I don't know, just some sort of an exercise person, okay? Somebody who's an exercise person. You take in enough calories. If you stop, the muscle will go away. That's another story, okay? But what happens is you got to lower your calories because you're no longer needing them to feed these muscles, and you don't lower your calories and you gain weight because you just have too many calories you're not using right now. If you're wondering, my eraser will be done soon. So how long do muscles last? Well, I'll just tell you. My dad worked outside, killed himself, probably my height, 5'7", but he had huge muscles. I mean, I thought they were huge. I was 105 pounds until I was 25 years old or something. But getting past that, he had huge muscles. And then when he finally quit his job when he was 62 years old, I went home after a year, and the guy was completely depleted. They disappear if you don't constantly use these things. All right, your body doesn't seem to want them all over the place. So let's talk about muscles. Muscles get stronger through exercise. Obviously, muscles get stronger through exercise. Use O2 to do this. So it's resistance, it's flexing the muscle, it's actually bringing it in and stretching it, etc. Two types of exercise, aerobics. Aerobic exercise, you get plenty of oxygen from starch storage. And animal starch is called glycogen, if you're curious. So you get plenty of oxygen from starch storage. So if somebody has to run, they might load up on pasta, which has a lot of carbs. The glycogen is converted with muscle contraction to pyruvic acid. Aerobics. But let's say you don't have any more starch left. You don't have any starch left in you. They would use that expression because the shirt has no starch and it's flimsy, but this works for people too in this case. If glycogen, or animal starch, is not present, your body, when contracting muscles, turns pyruvic acid to lactic acid. And lactic acid is very painful. It's that pain you get in your side when you run too far, etc. So what happens with lactic acid? Very painful, severe, severe muscle pain and stiffness. So people power through it and they keep, they have their brain move their muscles even though they're out of starch. They didn't eat right before they did this, or they're doing way too much work. Anyway, that's kind of interesting because the severe stiffness I find interesting. If you die, you're probably like, what happens when I die? Okay, what happens to me? Well, you stop breathing. And when you stop breathing, all your cells are still alive. But they're really confused as to why you're no longer pumping blood to them. So all of your cells at some point get extremely in this condition where they get extremely stiff, and that's probably what the rigor mortis is. I'm not a biochemist or anything, but I'm thinking, boy, you certainly get stiff when you don't get enough oxygen when you die. All right, types of muscles. Final thing I'm going to say to you. Two major types. I don't think you can choose which ones you get. Let's write them out. Remember, just become a PhD in yourself. Figure out your body, you'll have a great life. I hope. There's fast twitch muscles. And the fast twitch ones are good for short distance running. And there's slow twitch muscles, and these are good for marathon runners. If you're a fast twitch muscle kind of a person, you're going to be contracting your muscles more often and using up more oxygen, but you can do more with your muscles. So that's a sad little petroleum earth science chemist version of fitness and health, and that takes care of that lecture. It is over now.